Hey ho, mijos! It's your boy Choppadong here, and I want to cover a little bit of what we're talking about today. If you haven't seen it, of course, you need to scroll all the way back to like the 8 a.m. mark. We've been just loading some of the talk in the beginners channel today. We're talking about all sorts of stuff. We're going to embark on a single entry and a three max journey. We seem to cover a lot of MME. We'll still talk cash games with the two type player pool and all that stuff, but we're going to add in some of this three max and single entry talk. And single entry talk is more about getting contrarian, more about hand building lineups, more about looking at some stats and some research and building a process and things like that. Whereas our MME system, honestly, is really shotgun. It's scientifically back tested and everything. It worked, but it minimizes research. I can show up in 5 minutes, do nothing, look at nothing all day long, show up in 5 minutes, slap the settings into the optimizer, crank out 150 lineups that all have winning chances. What do you do if you're playing a 3 max, though? That doesn't work for you. So you need to make some choices. You can't cover all the bases and weight your percentage of stacks. Like I want 20% LA and 3% Miami or whatever. You can't do that when you're only building 3 lineups or 5 or 1 or whatever. So you need to dig in. You need to cut. You need to eliminate some fluff. I just posted this video here, which is eliminating rings, talking about narrowing down the bullseye with which we start from when we're looking for that perfect lineup. And I'm doing a lot of reading about leverage, single entries, and such, tournament leverage, and taking some of those common themes of those old timeless articles, and I'm going to rehash something, update it for 2022. But the gist of it is this. We know it works, okay? We know you need some low-owned players in your lineups. We know that you need to use some contrarianism in single-entry tournaments. You only get one bullet. Everybody is risk-averse for the most part, especially at the lower levels, lower buy-ins, and we know that those people tend to play too safe. They don't do a lot of research. They go looking at implied run totals, like here in the domination station. They look at game total over under and say, no, 7.5, don't like it. 9, ooh, there's a juicy game. 4.69, 4. Yeah, I like Boston. 7, no. 9, ooh, 4.84. I like the Dodgers. I always like the Dodgers. Dodgers are awesome. Cardinals are looking good tonight. Angels are looking good. These are easy offenses to pick up. Anybody with one eye open can see those. But that's where the ownership goes. And when the ownership goes there, now we're starting to see some chalk. And now we can start playing the game theory game, which means we'll take a suboptimal approach. We know we won't be right as often, but when we are right, we've got fewer people to fight at the top of the leaderboard than if we went with the herd, right? So that contrarian approach, that game theory approach that people like to talk about is very, very true. Lots of examples on the internet if you want to search for those. And we use things like ownership reports, projected ownerships, to kind of determine where people might be overvaluing things. Because let's be honest, the difference between a 4.69 and a 4.31 is a third of a run. I mean, that doesn't tell you that Boston is going to go off and Cleveland isn't. It doesn't mean squat. They both have equal chances. Even the 4.31 and the 4.84 of the Dodgers, 4.3, 4.8, that's half a run. Would it really surprise you if Cleveland put up 10 runs and the Dodgers only put up 4 tonight? And Cleveland was the winning stack. Would they really surprise? It would surprise some people, and those people don't understand how this game works yet. 4.31 versus 5.19 in Minnesota. It doesn't mean Minnesota is guaranteed to outscore Cleveland or Boston or whoever. The chances, it's not even a full run difference. You know what I'm saying? So the chances of Cleveland being the top performer on the slate versus Minnesota is pretty insignificant. It's pretty negligible. Now, if Minnesota's carrying a ton of ownership and 40% of people are playing Minnesota stacks and only 3% of people are playing Cleveland stacks, you're almost better off playing Cleveland stacks. Because baseball is volatile and it's random and crazy stuff happens unpredictably. And again, the measurable chances between these two teams is very minor. So all things being the same, give me the lower ownership because I'm going after the top of the leaderboard, and I don't care if the Dodgers go off and Minnesota goes off and those were the chalky teams and everybody sits around and says, well, I should have played the chalk. No, you're being results oriented. You're not understanding game theory at this point. Game theory dictates it should have probably been somewhere else. Okay, so we're assembling some things like that inside DFS Army right now, or I am, and we're going to tackle this challenge. And you're going to come along for the ride with me if you're a VIP, because I'm going to be sharing a lot of this stuff privately, like I already did this morning. A lot of numbers and some statistics and some percentages that tell us things like if you have gaps in your stacks, a 0% gap, or a 0 gap, 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1 gap, which would be 1, 3, 4, 5, a 2 gap, which could be 1, 2, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, something like that. That has a total of 2 gaps in that stack. The 2 gap stack hits the winning GPP lineup 41% of the time, and a 1 gap stack 27% of the time, which means if you stick to pretty much 1 and 2 gap stacks, 68% of the time you got the winner. Or you don't have the winning lineup, but you've got something capable of winning. So it's eliminating some of the fluff. If you look at things like we talk about stacking all the time. We have a optimal stacking sheet. 4x3, everybody knows on FanDuel is the way to go. But did you know the 4x3 is the winning formation 35% of the time? Did you know that? Did you know that a 4x4 is the winning stack formation 14% of the time? Did you know that if you played exclusively 4x3 and 4x4 stacks, you have the winning formation? You may have the wrong teams and the wrong players or whatever, but you have the winning formation 49% of the time, or nearly half the time. You can eliminate all the other crap because a 3x2x2, 4x2, 4x2x1, 4x1x1x1, 2x2x2x2, whatever, all that shit. Yeah, all that other shit wins 50% of the time too, but it's not narrowed all the way down to just 2 options. Why wouldn't you play the numbers? Why wouldn't you play the odds? So here's what we're going to do. For right now, let's talk about the hot zone. The hot zone would be the teams that are not chalky. Okay? And I use the leverage stacks tool over at DFS Army to do this. I'm looking at projected ownerships. And again, it's a big, big, big slate today, so let's not overthink things. Ownership is not going to be super serious tonight. There's just too many options. It really waters things down. But if you were looking at it in terms of, and you may take this and you may use this on a smaller slate tonight, a 4-game or a 5-game slate, one of the expresses or the turbos or something like that, I would definitely be thinking right now, I'd be thinking like this. I've got the top ownership stack of the night, Minnesota, 82%. I've got the second top, Texas. I've got the third top, LA. I've got the fourth top, LA. I've got the 5th top, Arizona, right? And I've got their implied run totals. Minnesota, 5.19. Texas is 4.85, wherever Texas is. Where'd you go? Some of you are looking at it and yelling at me to get there. There you go. LA Dodgers 4.84. LA Angels were 5.11 earlier this morning, still 5.11. Those are some good numbers, right? And those are some high-owned teams. However, what if we look just below that and said Chicago White Sox 48%? Where's the old St. Louis Cardinals 25% owned? St. Louis Cardinals 4.89, 25% owned. You're telling me that's the third highest implied run total on the slate? Third highest implied run total on the slate, and they're only going to be 25% owned when everything else is 70 and 80% owned? Are you kidding me? I'd take a quarter of the ownership at the same run total. Everybody's going to be sleeping on the Cardinals, apparently. Okay? That's leverage. That's how you win single entry tournaments. You win when the Cardinals go off. You don't win when the Dodgers go off. You win when the Cardinals go off and nobody's on them. And they have equal chances of going off. They may both win, 25% of the time, but yet 25% of the time with the Dodgers, you're right, but you're fighting 40% of the people. With the Cardinals, you're fighting 20% of the people. It's easier. You got more pathways to the top of the leaderboard with the Cardinals tonight than you do the Dodgers, okay? So one of the things that I did, if I call it up here really quickly, this will help you see the hot zone. Now, the slate's way too big. It needs to be a much smaller slate. But I call this guy up here. In fact, let's just do it this way. Bring him up right there for you. Okay? So what I'm looking at, if I blow him up even bigger, what I'm looking at right now is there's your top 5 owned teams, percent ownership, 82, 74, 69, 69, and it's not a lot. It's not significant ownership, but those are your top 5 teams, and there's their implied run totals. Okay, so you got a 5.1, 5.9, 4.85, 4.84, 4.6 in Arizona. Arizona's carrying a lot of chalk for a 4.6. Why wouldn't I cut the ownership down a little bit and take Chicago White Sox instead? Why wouldn't I cut the ownership down and take Boston instead? Do you think Chicago or Boston's the more powerful line? Why wouldn't you take Boston? Same chances of exploding, same basic matchup. Vegas sees it kind of the same in terms of scoring runs, and you're going to play the higher owned team. I don't know why. That's not smart. 4.85, 4.84, 74, 69%. Let's cut it down to a third of the ownership and take St. Louis instead. I'm not saying take St. Louis and Chicago or St. Louis and Boston. You certainly could. But I would be taking, St. Louis, maybe Minnesota, St. Louis Dodgers, whatever, if I can get it to fit. And I would be using, like I said, a 1 or a 2 gapped stack on both sides and probably a 4x3 or a 4x4 stack with a pitcher. And I've got numbers for pitchers too. The bottom line is these things matter. These things get you pointed in the right direction. And these things are how you're going to start attacking those single entry and those 3 max GPPs, because those things take a long time to win. I went back and back tested this just goofing off last night late and ran back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 slates over 3 days. Played the mini slates and the big slates over the last 3 days, 3 random days through June. Like a week ago, 3 weeks ago, and it's whatever. Just like picked random days just to throw myself off so I didn't know what the results were and couldn't remember who did good and who didn't. And then I hand built my lineups, and then I went and checked the scores. You want to hear something funny? Cashed every single one of them. I cashed every single one of the hand built lineups using the hot zone and a good pitcher and knowing what I know about stacking within 1 to 2 gaps and whatever else. I don't know. Felt like it was they're not going to cash every single slate, but it felt like I hear guys in our Discords struggling constantly, saying things like, single entry is hard, it's impossible. No, it's not. It's just slow. You can play 100 single entry tournaments. That's 100 days. It's over 3 months. You might cash, if you're good, in between 20 and 40 or 45 of them. Probably aren't cashing half of them. And you aren't going to win one of them, most likely. Now, you might if you get a little lucky. But if you're playing in an 8,000 person contest, it might take 3 years before you win one. Okay? So you've got to keep that stuff in mind. The wait is really slow in single entries. And that's what I want to prove to you through the single entry series, through the single entry challenge. I want you to follow along with me. We'll do like I said, we'll do our cash game stuff, we'll do our other stuff, but I want you to follow along with me. And I want you to see how long the wait is. Live vicariously through me. I'll do it. I'll throw myself on the sword. I don't care. I want to teach you, and I want to manage your expectations for you. I believe that people are too results oriented and they expect results way too quickly. And I get it. You sign up for a site for a month, you expect results within a week or two, and you're way, way, way wrong. That's way too unrealistic. You're looking for an education. You're looking for somebody to follow that's going to show you the ropes, it's going to show you how to use the tools, it's going to start building your game and start making it better. That's me. That's what you're looking for. That's what you're paying your membership for. The results will come. Will they take a week, a month, a year, 2 years? I don't know. But the results will come. I've been at this game way too long. I've been watching people, developing people for way, way, way too long to think that I can't do it with anybody, no matter how bad you think your game is. Jump in here. Let's start talking. I've got multiple ways for you to follow cash games, single entries now, MME, whatever. I've got multiple ways for you to follow. We've got a team of people doing all of it. And we can find the spot for you. And we can make your game better. But you got to do it. DFSArmy.com, coupon code CHOP, C-H-O-P, or coupon code DFSArmy, whichever one you want to use, 10% off discount in your VIP membership. Get in here today, start winning now, and let me start showing you the ropes as we add the single entry series and the 3 max series to our already stocked tool belt of ways to kill DFS. Peace out, homies. We'll talk to you really soon.